as we all know here, how richly rewarding vegetable gardening is, so I'm never hesitate to share. I'm also pleased that I've made a few converts along the way. One of my girlfriends in particular, when I first came home, I was volunteering in the garden, and I would come home with my nails all dirty and all sweaty, and I would try to get her to come over to the garden with me, and she was like, "Girl, it is too hot over there, and I'm not feeling them bugs." Well, after about a season over there, I looked up and she's over there helping me transplant annuals, so she's a regular visitor now. Another friend of mine who happens to be a Wilmington longshoreman, big strapping macho dude, he comes by the garden on a regular basis, and he follows me foot to foot like a little kid, asking me thousands of questions, trying to eat my tomatoes and all my vegetables and stuff. And he told me I better make sure that he gets community gardeners bed next year. So I knew that my girlfriend had never had experience of, planting a seed and seeing that tiny seed grow into a magnificent thing of beauty, or to be able to serve it as part of your evening meal. So another friend of mine, well, like many friends of ours, they started gardening as children, and like my friend the longshoreman, his grandpa introduced him to gardening as a child down south. So unwittingly, his grandpa planted the seed of a future gardener. I personally give credit to my interest in gardening to my Aunt Bert. My dear Aunt Bert, it was she who taught me to love and appreciate all things in nature and to have respect for all living creatures. My Aunt Bert was the single most influential person in my life, bar none. She was far more than just my aunt. My Aunt Bert was my mother's oldest sister by 16 years. So she was like a grandma to me, my guardian angel, my mentor, and my second grade teacher. My mom, my first grade school teacher. As far back as I can remember, Aunt Bert was my go-to person. She was sophisticated, steady, fair, kind, and the smartest person that I ever knew to this day. It was my Aunt Bert whom I remember walking with through the woods out behind Armstrong and Odessa, way before there were more than a half dozen farmhouses out there. She and my uncle bought a parcel of land back there in 1959 and built their dream home. During these years and long into my adulthood, we would take long walks around the property, admiring the land that she and my uncle owned. There were all kinds of trees and flowers growing wild there. Every spring, she and I would plant a garden on the hillside alongside the house. Aunt Bert knew every plant, every shrub, every tree. She could tell you what kind of bird it was from their song and where it nestled. I spent many days picking wild elderberries for homemade wine and apples to make cider. We would can tomatoes and peaches. We'd make relish and pickles. It was truly a wonderful life back then. But of course, adulthood is inevitable, and before you know it, the days of innocence are gone. I don't know that I can blame or attribute any one single event as the reason why and how I ended up on the other side of the law, to coin a phrase. Aunt Bert always called me Nicodemus because of my penchant to be so curious and to challenge everything that didn't sit right with me. Certainly a healthy sense of curiosity is a good thing, but Aunt Bert also said curiosity killed the cat. The event that resulted in my being sent to WCI was like a chain reaction, sort of like a rear-end collision that you see coming. You know what's going to happen, you see it coming, but you're powerless to do anything about it, to stop it or yourself, resulting in leaving your life in shambles. Most people never recover. I've been more fortunate than most. After getting past the initial shock of what was happening to me and to my family, having to sell the home that I love so much, and had worked so hard to save, I made up my mind that I would persevere, that I wouldn't be a casualty of my circumstance. I had already witnessed so much despair. Women whose children were scattered all through the state, many with mental health issues and medical issues, some very serious. It didn't take long before I noticed the garden out back, though. It was a dead of winter, 18 inches of snow on the ground that year. I introduced myself to Ms. Rose. She was in charge of the garden program at the time, and I told her how interested I was. The garden club was part of the culinary arts program at that time. So, of course, everybody wanted to be in that program. You get to eat real good food. It was not the light. I'm in. During my first year in the program, it didn't take long before the information and lessons that had lied dormant for so long surfaced in my brain as if they were waiting for a chance to be used. I had owned a lovely home for many years and took great pride in cultivating the flowers and shrubs that surrounded it. But it had been decades since I had grown vegetables. But you know what they say, you can take the girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. So the lessons from my childhood quickly began to emerge. It all became second nature. Many of the women at BWCI had never been in a botanical garden, much less a vegetable garden. As the season progressed, the women came to depend on me more and more for advice, information, and knowledge. And the time that I spent in the garden made my days at BWCI go by quickly. During the first season in the garden program at BWCI, I had the privilege of meeting the ladies from your garden club and the DCH. I myself am a strong believer in the act of volunteerism, having grown up in scouting and encouraged by my parents to donate to families who were far less fortunate than we. I know firsthand that volunteer work does as much for the giver as it does the receiver. For women who are incarcerated, it is often the only kindness that they know. So on behalf of the women whose lives you all have touched through your generosity, I wish to say thank you. The garden program at BWCI has changed a great deal from when I left. I don't have to tell anyone here how rewarding, how therapeutic having your hands in soil can be. The garden club helps give the women that are involved a sense of purpose and a reason to get out of the bed each morning. But I do know that the changes have done nothing to enhance the program. In fact, the opposite seems to be the case. But in spite of all the obstacles put before you all, I know that your group continues to persevere. So bravo to you all. It's pointless to criticize. The jail operates in a vacuum. No one on the outside will ever be able to do much to change what happens inside. You can only do so much before someone has something negative to say. We all know that our penal system is a disgrace. The rate of recidivism hovers around 80% in Delaware because of the lack of programs designed to provide inmates, particularly women, with marketable skills that can be used upon release. In addition to that stigma, is the stigma attached to anyone who has been incarcerated when seeking employment. Nowadays, your criminal record is part of your credit report. As long as these kinds of obstacles exist, folks will find it hard to rise above their past mistakes. The DCH is one of the few organizations that has actively sought to provide employment opportunities to individuals returning to society. Hopefully, my work at the DCH is in some small way an indication of the importance of supporting women and men seeking to re-enter the workforce. Over the past 3 years, my work at the Army Farm, while also allowing me to earn a paycheck, has given me an opportunity to be involved in meaningful and rewarding work. As you all know, the urban farm is striving to make fresh produce available to individuals who have limited access. Changing people's shopping and eating patterns is difficult at best, but we know that this program can work. There are very successful models throughout the country in many cities. I think the key in Wilmington lies with education. There still exists a tremendous gap between the haves and the have-nots. We at the DCH and the Urban Farm are committed to closing that gap at the dinner table. We look eagerly forward to the time when everyone has the same access to fresh, nutritious food choices, excuse me. I brought along with me a few photographs from my work at the BWCI Garden as well as the Urban Farm. The Urban Farm has this summer and over the last 2 seasons encouraged local youth groups such as the Y and various children's schools to come and visit and learn about gardening and horticulture. We've had the privilege of hosting the Garden Club of America and many other organizations throughout the summer. This week, as a matter of fact, we will be sponsoring the Delaware Nature Society